On the surface, paying someone more money per hour to do a job sounds like the right thing, if they have indeed earned it, of course. Across America, there's a groundswell of support for a minimum wage of maybe $15 or more. We all want to make more money, but what does this factually do to small businesses who live and breathe on every dollar and cannot waste a cent? Our guest is the National Director for Media and Communications at NFIB, the National Federation of Independent Business. Let's welcome Jack Mozloom to MidPoint. Jack, it's a pleasure to talk to you.
Ed, thank you.
Jack, let's dig right into this here because I've got sitting in my hot little hands an article here from the Austin Statesman Journal and a couple of other papers, and it says minimum wage study touts benefits for small business. You realize, of course, it's a bit of an uphill battle here when you say that it's not good for small business because you've got people out here fighting you tooth and nail on this subject.
Yeah, it's a popular issue, especially among the Democrats. It's going to be a campaign issue, and we've seen it now in, probably 15 states. And of course, the president has proposed it a number of times. Look, everybody, including our members, supports higher wages for workers. The question is, do you have the sales to support that? And as a matter of fact, not every business of every size can afford to pay their workers what Costco can pay, or the Gap, or Google. So, you know, it's kind of a silly proposition, the idea that every business everywhere should be forced to pay higher labor costs regardless of their individual business circumstances. And the result is going to be fewer jobs. As a matter of fact, to go to your point earlier, a preponderance of the academic research that's ever been done on the subject connects higher minimum wages to higher unemployment rates, especially among the young and the unskilled. And that's a shame because I had jobs just like that. You did, I'm sure. And that's where young people like us learn the habits and the skills to climb the ladder. And increasingly, the left is pursuing policies that are cutting off the bottom rungs.
Is what a lot of the critics here are missing, Jack, is the fact that it's not just about paying more, but it's also about things like Obamacare and the way that all works in. You have to take everything as one big nut here, if you will, and then figure out how to spend it and how to still make a buck at the end of the day, because like you said, not everybody is Costco.
Well, sure, and most of our members, more than half of our members, have fewer than 10 employees. They operate very typically on very small margins, and you know, the president at $10.10 an hour is proposing a 40% increase in the federal minimum wage. Some municipalities like San Francisco and Seattle have gone even higher. But name the business that can count every year on a 40% increase in sales. You can't. Most of our members already pay $7.25 an hour. Some don't, and that's because they can't. And it's not because they want to exploit their workers. It's not because they don't like their workers. It's because they can't. And when government seeks to force businesses to spend money they don't have, the result invariably is going to be cutbacks elsewhere.
Then, Jack, let's look at it this way. About 90 seconds I have left here. What's the answer, then, to get the message out to people that the smaller businesses cannot survive like this? Is it simply lower taxes, fewer regulations, getting it out there, people like you to make the case? Because you realize a lot of America thinks you guys just don't want to pay the workers, and they think that all small business wants to do is exploit people.
Well, I don't think too many Americans believe that. In fact, small business owners are, as a group, respected more highly than almost anybody except the military. So I think if you're watching, make sure you encourage your neighbors to talk to the small business owners in your neighborhood and imagine yourself in their position. In fact, imagine what it's like as a consumer yourself to be forced to pay more for things. You know exactly what you'd do. You'd cut back on those things. Well, the same rules apply to the cost of labor. When you raise that artificially, you're going to get fewer jobs.
And the biggest thing I think that people have to understand, Jack, is when we're talking small business, we're talking small business. We're not talking 40, 50 employees. We're talking what you said, 10 or a dozen, right?
90% of our members have fewer than 20 employees and half have fewer than 10. But combined, small business is the major employer in the country. We employ more people than the big corporations, and we produce half the GDP. So it's a critical part of the economy. and it would be catastrophic to kill it off like they seem to be determined to do in some capitals.
Have to keep the small business alive, absolutely. National Federation of Independent Business. Jack Mozloom is our guest. Your brother was right. You nailed it right there. Jack, thanks a lot for your time, my friend. We'll talk to you again.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Take care. When we come back, let's go around the dial and find out what's happening, and specifically the commentary about South Carolina.